Welcome to The Quad, CCB's sport podcast. I'm Simon Hill, Deputy Head at Christ College, and I'm delighted that you've joined us as we discuss all the latest sports news at the school. We'll cover global sporting issues and also spend time with invited guests, all of whom have specialisms or interest in the world of sport. This is The Quad.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 5 of The Quad, and we're getting pretty good at this now, and I'm pleased to say I'm joined by the usual crowd, and I'm also very pleased to say that as of last week our podcast is now available on Spotify as well as YouTube. So The Quad is available on Spotify, so please share it wide and tune in and let us know and leave a review if you do listen in. So I'm joined today by the usual crew, and we're just going to do a quick roundup of how the sports have gone this week. So everybody, tough week in sport, I'm sure. You've done lots of training, lots of games. How's it been?
It's been okay. We had a very rough fixture against Llandaff on Wednesday, which I'm sure we'll go on to.
Saturday.
Oh yeah, Saturday.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday was the cup match.
That's right. That's called Bro Mervyn.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a good week.
Good. So hockey wise, busy?
We had a really good game on Wednesday against Howells, where we scored 7-0.
Yeah,
Best game
bro.
this season, yeah.
So we'll talk about that one in a bit now, and we'll see how that one went.
Yeah.
Good stuff. How have you guys got on this week? Jack, what have you been up to?
There was the national cross country, which was good. There was lots of Christ Cole runners there. It was down in Monmouth. Never raced there before. It was a nice course. It was on the floodplain by the river, so there's a lot of steady descending and then with some sharp hills. So it was quite nice.
What was the terrain like? Was it soft or?
Yeah, I liked it. It was fairly soft. It was soft underfoot, but it was a quick race.
Talk to us about your
It was
cross country
nice.
spikes in comparison to your track spikes.
Well, yeah, I kind of fell foul of this, but it was definitely a day for the long sharp ones.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
So how talk us about how long are these spikes that we're talking about? There's a bit of a difference, isn't there?
12, 15 mil.
Yeah. So they can look quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And how did you as you said, you fell foul a little bit. Do you want to talk about it, or you was a bit sore?
Well, it was 2 meters into the race, and unfortunately, the guy next to me accidentally stood on my foot. So it was a bit of a painful one. It was okay. I finished the race, but got to the end, and the St John's ambulance people were panicking.
Concerned because your foot was red.
Yeah, it was. Well, the main thing I was worried about was, one, I was worried I had to miss training, which unfortunately I did, and secondly, my spikes are ruined. So at least
New pair of spikes.
New pair of spikes. Yeah. But it was a good race overall. Good. Nice to see everyone doing well.
Yeah, there was quite a few
Yeah.
juniors for us as well, representing Powys, which is brilliant. I know that Cecily Mears and Anna Baharrell in the juniors really enjoyed it, and we had some good senior kind of placings as well, didn't we?
Yeah, there was Ollie Obi and Joe Murphy who both did really well.
And Lisa.
Yeah,
she did brilliantly as well.
So I know on the boys' side us three were part of the East Wales team who got bronze, so that was good.
Fantastic, yeah. Good result, and that just carried on, hasn't it, from the fantastic kind of season that cross country have had since the beginning of the year. Brilliant. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more detail, lads, about that the quarter final against Bro Mervyn. I can never say that. How did it go?
Yeah, it was a good game, to be fair. We knew that they weren't going to be a very really strong side, like Monmouth, for instance. So we rested quite a few of our key players, like Owen Conker and Ewan Mack. And then obviously we had a few injuries, like obviously Dan Buff sitting next to me. But yeah, it was a good game, to be fair. Was it first captaincy for Harry Holden?
I think he had a couple captaincies last year, but I think it was the first this year with Matt Price as vice captain. So
Yeah, it was a really strong performance from Harry Holden, the captain.
He played really well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did play very well. And ended up, I can't remember what the final score was off the top of my
I
head.
think it became like 60 points.
Yeah, I think it was 60 points to 12.
It was a very strong performance.
So yeah, we dominated, I think, in that second half. And then what does that mean for you moving forward? What was that game about, and where does that lead you?
Well, that was the quarter final of the National Schools and Colleges Cup. So we now have the semi-final down in the Knoll in Neath against our rivals Aston Villa, who just bested us in the final last year.
That's it. So it's a bit of a grudge match.
Yeah,
going
revenge
back
mission.
down there. Yeah, for sure. Good stuff. And then how did Saturday go? What was in store on Saturday?
Saturday, it was a bit of a revenge mission for the boys who were here last year. bit of information. Well, last year we drew to them 5-5 where we should have really beaten them. So this year we were going for as many points as we could, as it was a friendly as well. But it didn't end like that.
It was a tough match, and they came really well prepared, and they made it very, very difficult for Christ College. And I think we made an awful lot of mistakes.
Yeah, I think it was just I don't think it was that we didn't have the structure. I think it was just those little mistakes where just dropping the ball, just when to kick, when not to kick. But we got the win in the end, and watching on the side, it was one of those, you were shouting at the boys. But
there was a lot of Year 11 boys playing as well, which was
really
great, because obviously planning for the future and looking ahead to next year, it's important they get that experience in these really, really tough matches.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Girls, hockey, how's it gone?
Yeah, we had a really good game on Wednesday, like I said. Our team it worked really well together. We were speedy, our passes connected, probably scored 4 of the 7 goals, so that was really good for me.
Yeah. So tell me, why do you think, what is it about that game that made you connect so well? Is it a combination of training, putting into practice what you've been working on? Was it some different tactic? Was it that you were really up for this game, or what?
I think we were initially really up for it because our game before that we had quite a tough game, so we just wanted to have a good game to come from, and then we just worked on making connections rather than like one man dribbling. So because we made connections and ran, it's hard for the opposition to try and tackle you because the ball's going faster than you're running. So.
And is that, would you say that's been a development of your game over the last kind of 3 months or so, that kind of connection or that connecting passing has really developed your team? Al, what do you reckon? How was the game for you?
It was actually really easy. I didn't have to do much in defence.
Yeah.
I think Val touched the ball, 3 times?
Tough for a goalkeeper then, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
That's a long
tough, but
afternoon.
No, it was good. I think the better thing with our performance is we didn't try to force it as much. Like in our previous game, I think we did start to slowly lose it bit by bit, was because we were forcing it a bit too much through our opposition. But we played around them, which helped us as they had to run a lot more, which meant they fatigued quite quickly. Good.
It sounds like it's obviously it's a very technical game, hockey, isn't it? Yeah. And tactics can play a huge part in whether or not you win or you lose. It sounds like you're kind of really putting things together and putting some good results together as well. So sounds brilliant. Well done, everybody. Okay, so that kind of sums up the senior results. The juniors in hockey went away to Catherine Lady Berkeley, and that kind of rounded off a really good block fixture, or a couple of block fixtures that we've had with them over the past couple of months. So the under-15s and under-14s went away, and we won one and lost one there. And then on Wednesday with the rugby, the under-14s and 15s played quite a tough match against Llandovery, who were really, really big. There were some big boys there. Wouldn't look out of place in our first team for sure. So they had a tough kind of game against Llandovery. And then on the weekend, we had a very great block fixture with Cathedral School. That was the junior hockey. Again, had a tough kind of couple of results against the girls there. Llandovery Cathedral School are really strong down the years below because of their large numbers. And our under-15s just missed out to Llandovery Cathedral School as well. I think the score was 24-17, I think, or very close for those year 10s. So a really good turnaround in comparison to last year's performance there. So that kind of concludes last week's fixtures and what kind of went on. And we'll talk about a little bit what's happening this week. I know, lads, you've got a cup semi-final against Ystrad. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes or moments' time. But it moves us nicely on to our countdown and kind of rattle through them now. We got to number 5, and number 5 on our countdown will not be an unfamiliar name to anybody. So number 5 in our countdown of top sports men or women of all time is Muhammad Ali, and he'll be a hero to millions of people around the world. Muhammad Ali, very famous boxer, but not only a boxer, I think he's a role model and somebody who people hold in extremely high esteem for lots of different reasons. So we're going to find out a little bit more about who Muhammad Ali was and what impact he really had on the world of boxing, but the wider kind of world as well. So, Muhammad Ali, he was born in Louisville in Kentucky. He died in 2016, so it seems quite kind of only like yesterday, but it's quite a long time since since he's passed away. He's best known for his world heavyweight champion of the world, and his nickname was the Greatest, and I think there's lots of people who would agree that he was or the greatest. His birth name was Cassius Marcellus Clay, and he was born in Louisville, in Kentucky, in 1942. His father, Cassius Clay Sr., he was a sign painter, and his mother worked as a maid. So he has come from a tough upbringing, a tough background. He had a younger brother named Rudy, and the Clays weren't rich, but they weren't poor either. So he was good kind of background, and he really had to strive for what he achieved. I know that he started to box, and the reason why he started to box was because he had his bike stolen. He was getting bullied a little bit and pushed around a little bit, and his bike was stolen, and he went home, and his dad said, "You've got to sort this out for yourself." So he said, "Okay, I will." And he went to a gym, said, "I've got to look after myself, I've got to be able to protect myself." And he started boxing, and the rest is history in a way. Obviously a very, very prolific boxer. He had a very successful amateur career before he went professional. So, Belle, can you tell us a bit more about his amateur statistics?
He fought 105, only losing 5. He also won several Gold Glove championships and was soon considered one of the best amateur light heavyweight boxers in the world, which is really impressive. In 1960, Cassius travelled to Rome to participate in the Olympics. He defeated all his opponents to win the gold medal. Upon returning home, Cassius was an American hero. He decided to turn professional boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a lot of people will remember, and I say lots of people, like your parents' generation, and certainly my parents' generation, is that kind of like the way into professional boxing is through the Olympic route. And lots of heavyweight champions, and lots of middleweights and lightweights, they will have achieved Olympic success, Olympic silver, gold. They would have kind of done their pre-professional era through and gone through the ranks at Olympic level. So to win gold, it's kind of like the next step, really. If you win gold in the Olympics, or you kind of do your Olympic journey, you are destined then to turn professional. So he's quite a famous figure, not just for his boxing, however, and he became a political kind of figure to do with the Vietnam War, and there was a lot of kind of controversy surrounding him at that time. Who could tell me a little bit more about the Vietnam War and how Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali impacted there?
Well, due to religious reasons, in 1967 he refused to join the US military and fight in Vietnam. That then meant that he was arrested and stripped of his title, as well as the New York State Athletic Commission suspending his boxing license. This then led to him being convicted of draft evasion and sentenced to prison and then fined. But in 1970 he appealed his conviction, and the New York State Supreme Court ordered that his boxing license was to be reinstated. And then they went on to overturn the entirety of Ali's conviction in 1971.
What do you guys think of that? Like you've got a boxer or a professional athlete at his peak, really, and he's willing to then say, "I'm going to stop. I'm going to make a stand here. I'm not willing to be drafted into the Vietnam War." Do you think, did he make the right decision? Obviously, at that time, he was then cited for that, and he lost his license and was convicted and sentenced to prison. So what do you guys feel? Do you think he was right to make a stand?
Yeah, I think he was definitely right to make a stand, but I think it's strange really that like obviously there would have been many people, especially in the Vietnam War, being as ferocious as it was, that would have
been drafted or had to be drafted.
Yeah, they would have evaded the draft, and then would have obviously gone to prison. And I think I'm not sure whether it's not fair, but it's just strange to me how obviously Ali can have all of his titles and his whole life given back to him just because he was as famous as he was, whereas there was obviously lots of...
Yeah, it's good. It's a very good point. And that's one side of the coin, isn't it? Is to say that, he made a stand, he went to prison, he was fined, but then, years later he had everything kind of reinstated to him, whereas lots of other people wouldn't have had what they had reinstated. They wouldn't have got those things back. But I think on the other side of that, I think he was trying to make a very political point that, the Vietnam War was very unjust. USA were struggling in that place and that time, and I think that he wanted to turn around and be that kind of figurehead to say what we're doing is really wrong, and I'm going to make a stand, and I'm going to be that person who's going to take that kind of fall in a way. And he did raise a lot of attention about it. If the heavyweight champion of the world is turning around and saying, I'm not going to go and fight, or I'm not going to go and do this, then that definitely raises the profile and the media. And as you say, Meg, it was turned, wasn't it? It was turned around, and then a few years later, and they reinstated all of his titles and his boxing license as well. So he went on to win some really famous professional fights.
Yeah, well, over his career, he won 56 out of the 61 professional fights, and he defeated the like of Sonny Liston, George Foreman, Jerry Quarry, Joe Frazier. With each victory, he gained the popularity and solidified his reputation. That consistency, really, and
They were some mammoth
yeah.
matches as well. I watched a few of them back, and we're talking, these guys were huge. And he wasn't known for being the biggest bloke or the biggest fighter, Muhammad Ali. He was very much known for his speed and his agility and his quickness. And he was facing some really, really big men, and quite intimidating men as well. So these fights have gone down in history as some of the best of all time.
Yeah, well, I think with that speed and agility, he had the power then, didn't he? With 37 knockouts out of the 56 victories, which I think is pretty impressive.
That's very good, isn't it?
So,
For sure. Did he lose, or his first pro loss?
He experienced his first pro loss as a pro in the fight of the century. After his licence was reinstated, Ali worked his way back to the heavyweight championship. On 8th of March 1971, he entered the ring against the undefeated Joe Frazier. Frazier would defend his championship title, beating Ali in the final round. The night was dubbed the Fight of the Century and landed Ali his first defeat as a professional boxer. He would go 10 more fights before losing again, and in 6 months' time he even defeated Frazier in a non-title match.
Yeah, that's a really kind of significant point in his career there. And lots of people kind of thought, well, he's lost now. Can he get it back? Will he get it back? And he certainly did. And he went on then to kind of perform boxing in one of the most famous, or the most famous fight of the century, really.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you that the Rumble in the Jungle was definitely, it sticks out in my mind as one of the most famous fights that's ever taken place. Yeah, I think realistically it is the definition of a super fight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is just absolutely unreal. He went toe to toe with the undefeated champion George Foreman in Kinshasa, Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in 1974. Zaire's president at the time wanted positive publicity for the country and offered each of the fighters $5 million to fight in Africa. This would ensure the fight would be viewed by an American audience. It took place at 4 a.m. in the morning. Imagine that,
That's
having
crazy.
to go toe to toe at 4 in the morning.
Yeah, weird. And I don't know if any of you have seen the film that was made about Muhammad Ali. It's titled Ali, and they portray that brilliantly. And it is just an open air stadium, and it is jam packed, and it's the most crazy scene of all. It's just really intimidating. It was fantastic. It was a celebration of everything that was good about boxing. And you're right, I think the president really wanted to kind of celebrate Africa and bring the two best boxers to Africa and really make a statement. And that's a lot of money back then, 5 million.
Oh yeah,
For sure.
yeah. Just into inflation, that'd be a lot now.
Absolutely.
But yeah, in the fight, Ali won in 8 rounds, and he regained his heavyweight title after losing it 7 years prior. He employed a new strategy against Foreman, leaning against the ropes to absorb the blows from Foreman until he was tired out. I personally think that this is what caused him to have this, obviously the Parkinson's disease that he developed, because obviously if you look early into his career, he had a very fast, twitchy, agile strategy where he obviously avoid most of the blows, very similar to how Floyd Mayweather used to fight when he was fighting. But obviously when he absorbed this, when he got older, less agile.
It was brutal.
Yeah,
it was absolutely brutal. And I've watched the film, the fight on YouTube, but I've also kind of watched the film as well. And they portray it very, very brilliantly. It was brutal what he was up against. He was against the ropes, just taking hit after hit after hit. What was his strategy then? Why did he? What was the point?
Well, he just wanted to make him tired out, really. Obviously, I think he knew deep down that he didn't have that flair and that speed that he did when he was younger in his career. So obviously, he just absorbed this new strategy, and it was working for him. when he was fighting, but obviously he faced the repercussions of that later
Yeah.
in his life. But interestingly enough, actually, this is the very fight where very controversial, I think, is the right word to use, photo and punch was taken. I think many of you might know about the Phantom Punch, as it's called, where Muhammad Ali hit George Foreman, hit in brackets, because it didn't look like he hit him,
But he fell.
but he did fall and he didn't get back up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's kind of, as you've alluded to already as well, and I'm not sure the biology behind it all, but Muhammad Ali suffered from Parkinson's from a really, really early age. And I wonder whether or not, as you allude to, it's the big hits and it's the constant blows that that kind of maybe would have led into that. So you wanted to talk to me about Ali when he had Parkinson's and being diagnosed at 42.
Well, yeah, Ali retired from boxing in 1979. He briefly returned in 1980, but then he did retire for good in 1981 at age 39. And then only 3 years later, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease after showing signs of slurred speech and slowness. So that was really sad. But I think his legacy definitely remains. For example, he was the first boxer to win the World Heavyweight title 3 times. That was when he beat Sonny Liston in 1964, George Foreman in 1974, and then Leon Spinks in 1978. And I think another reason why he just cements his place as one of the greatest of all time is he never ever ducked a big fight. And I think we see nowadays, there's boxers, they may be scared of losing their legacy. There's a lot of emphasis on undefeated, which is fair enough. But also, you've got to fight the best. For example, with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, a few years ago, they seemed to be the best, the 2 best. They had to fight, they never did. And I think that could tarnish their legacies, whereas Ali, he never ducked the big fight.
That's it, you take them as they come, as they say.
Yeah.
And he certainly did, and they were always willing to box the best boxers at that time. And I think that's what made heavyweight boxing quite attractive to everybody, is that they knew the 2 best boxers were going at it. And yeah, I think that's a key point, isn't it, that we don't necessarily really get that authenticity, do we, in this?
No, it's all about the money.
It is all about the money and the publicity and the marketing.
Am I right in saying that he won the best athlete of the century?
That's right, yeah. So I think on the BBC Sports Personality of the Year, I think they awarded him Athlete of the Century or Man of the Century or Sportsman of the Century. So I think it's probably quite right that he's coming to our top 10 at least, the fact. But it's like with anything as well, isn't it? Over a period of years and years, people will get forgotten about. But if you think that, Ali died in 2016, he did his last fight back in the 70s, and he's still a prolific person in sporting history. I think that kind of testament to the fact that he will live on, I think. And I think generations to come will know of Muhammad Ali and how great he was. Right, okay, so Sports Watch, and lots going on in the world of sport, especially as the Football World Cup started yesterday in Qatar. And I'm not sure if any of you will tune in and watch. I'm sure it'll be on in the background somewhere, and you will. I don't think there's any escaping the Football World Cup, is there? I know there's been a lot of controversy around this World Cup, lots of different reasons. But I'm sure you'll kind of get absorbed into it as the tournament goes on. And yesterday, Ecuador started against Qatar and they won 2-0. England today got their kind of campaign off earlier. I know the really kind of comfortable win against Iran. They won 6-2. And Wales, they start their campaign this evening against the USA. And the team is as expected. I think the only absentee that would be in there would be Joe Allen. And he'll be a big miss, but I know they would have prepared for that because I know he wasn't 100% fit going to the World Cup, so they're hoping they progress and he can play a part in that. So I think that they're kind of as good as they could be, and I know all eyes on the match this evening. How do we think they're going to get off then?
Oh, well, I reckon it'll be a Wales win. I reckon it'll be 2-1 to Wales, but I don't think the US, I don't know, small team.
Yeah,
they're coming up through the ranks now with players coming into the Premier League. Like you've got Pulisic, and I reckon they will be a good team in this tournament.
So it's going to be a tough start. Yeah, they have got a tough start.
Yeah, I reckon if it was Iran earlier, I reckon it would be a better, comfortable game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the way it's gone. But I reckon Wales can do it.
Arguably, though, you're looking for a good start, and you want to have that tough match. If they can get over this hurdle now, I think then they're on a really good trajectory to qualify.
Yeah, 100%.
I think if Wales win today, they have an amazing chance of qualifying out the group stage, and that would be an amazing achievement if you look at the populations. And
Yeah.
the second
Absolutely.
smallest, so
So
it's a good time.
We'll talk about that actually. Well, we've got that here. We are the smallest country to have qualified for the World Cup. So Qatar have a less population than us, in around about 2 million. Wales is around about 3. So we're the smallest by a long way to have qualified. So as you said, Jack, qualifying and getting out of the group, I think if they could do that, that would really be an excellent kind of achievement. Put Wales on the map for sure. Girls, how about you? You going to watch some football?
Well, the England game was all over centre today, so you couldn't really escape it.
Yeah.
It's quite hard not to watch, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
that's good.
I'm going to watch the Wales game tonight, I think.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think it's about that, isn't it? Getting involved. As I said, it'll be very tricky to escape.
Yeah.
It'll be on everywhere, and it'll be on all the internet, all the kind of news, and especially because there's 2 home nations, I guess, England and Wales playing. It'll be kind of double the publicity, if you like. So we won't be able to escape it. Right. So rugby. There were some results of rugby on the weekend, and not just at Christ College, but with the conclusion of the international, the autumn internationals. And I'm sure we're going to get some fireworks here when we talk about the results. So Ollie and Dan, I'm going to go over to you. We were playing whilst Wales were playing, and I think that's probably a good thing because we didn't get to watch it.
Yeah, well, I haven't actually watched the highlights yet because I haven't brought myself to face the epiphany of what was Wales' performance and what I've heard. But yeah, I'm not planning on it, to be honest.
No, I don't think I've watched the highlights. Dan, you seen them?
Yeah, I watched the game through. I thought may as well see what went wrong.
I say I watched the highlights. I think I watched maybe all of 1 minute of highlights because there wasn't very many.
No, it was quite a low-scoring game, and you kind of thought against Georgia, yeah, they're getting better as a team. But I don't know what happened with Wales. It was a good start, but I think it was just the physicality. The Georgians are known for their strength.
Yeah.
And I think it just overpowered us in the end.
Absolutely. And I think it's been a long time, well, I'd say a long time coming. They lost to Italy in the summer, or the end of the Six Nations, okay? Then we've got this win now for Georgia. I think it's really put Wales and the WRU under the spotlight to really look at what their processes are.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because one of my mates' stepdads actually was speaking to Ken Owens the other week, quite recently actually, and he was saying, being a part of Wayne Pivac's team, that Wayne Pivac is just not hitting the mark for managing Wales, and even he was expecting Wayne Pivac to resign after the loss.
There's a lot, and I'm not sure if many subscribe to Twitter, but Pivac out was trending for a while on Saturday, and I know a lot of my friends, we've been talking about it, and whether or not Scott Robertson will be in the wings to take over. He'd be a great kind of replacement, I think, and really kind of get Wales moving forward. So yeah, disappointing, and I think it has really put that kind of WRU and the processes with WRU under the spotlight. Other results, how did the other home nations get on?
England did well, to be fair, in the end. I thought it was going to be like the Wales game where New Zealand just went away with it again, but I guess I was wrong in the 70th minute. I think most of the English fans must have left by then, but England turned it on and they came back to draw 25. It was a good game.
3 tries in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, unbelievable. It's one of those things you don't really expect to happen.
Jordy Barrett got yellow carded, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then the floodgates opened, and England's really switched it on and turned it on from that point.
A bit of a Freddie Stewart masterclass.
Yeah, it was, and I also think as well. Again, talking about selections and coaches, he's not picked his strongest side to start with. Again, I think he meddles with a lot of his selection, Eddie Jones, and when he made those changes, the game just changed as well. Slade came on, Stewart came on, and it really kind of switched things up.
Stewart started, I think.
Did he start?
I can't remember his name was. Scored 2 tries. prop, Will Stewart.
Oh, Stewart, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, he was very good.
Right, and then Scotland, how do they get on?
Well, they did well in the end, but I don't think the discipline from Argentina was great with the red card and the 2 yellows. I think a lot of the lads were talking about it in-house when it happened. I was talking about how some things in the ruck, when you go in and hit him with his shoulder, that one did look intentional, but we were talking about the Peter Steph-Toy one the other day actually, and how he has been banned, but you couldn't have done anything.
It's very hard, isn't it?
And we reckon it should have just been yellow.
Yeah. It's really tricky as well because he's obviously got a ban now
Yeah.
and a good few games away. So I think they really have to look whether or not the intent, and that's the key bit,
Yeah,
is the
if it was
intent.
done on purpose
For
and if
sure.
it was out of the way.
Yeah, I think it's tough because especially at the moment, there's a real large inconsistency in how, especially those type of collisions being refereed. Like I know Brodie Retallick before the alternations had a ban for an illegal clean out, and then in one of the Australia games in the alternations was exactly the same clean out, and it was only a yellow card. So it's just quite
It's
frustrating.
tricky, isn't it, from World Rugby to get the consistency right, but
Yeah.
it's what you'd expect at that level, isn't it? Because you're kind of messing with people's careers and also the consistency of selection, etc.
Yeah, we're back on a Scotland game. What a game by Finn Russell.
He was
Wow.
very good.
It's nice to see him back, I think.
Absolutely.
He's
He wasn't involved 2 weeks
adds
ago.
a bit of magic. He opens up the gates and finds the spaces really.
He has a very good knack of making Gregor Townsend look silly. Our Finn Russell does. I think he quite enjoys being the bad boy and then coming back and proving everyone wrong, which I quite like as well. Which he did really well. And then Ireland, they finished off their their autumn internationals with a win against Australia and kind of cementing themselves as that number 1 team.
Yeah, speaking on Ireland, actually, Josh van der Fleer was named
World Rugby Player of the Year.
Men's Rugby Player of the Year,
Yeah.
which is really impressive, to be honest.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
He's very deserving as well. Wasn't he? I think Johnny Sexton as well was awarded, got an award.
He was
there.
in the World Men's 15.
Yeah,
Kaputsu got on
Breakthrough.
the star, yeah.
yeah.
breakthrough
So
back.
Ireland's in a really good place, isn't it?
Yeah.
For sure.
They're doing really well, and I think they could be really strong contenders for the World Cup title
Yeah.
next year in France.
Okay, right. So we'll move on and finally to next week's fixtures. Girls, what have you got coming up?
Well, we have qualifiers on either Friday, so when this comes out, or on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we get through to that, we'll have the semis probably Thursday, I think.
And that's for the Nationals.
Yeah, this is for Nationals.
Yeah. And how do we get on Nationals last year? Semis again, didn't we? We went up to Newtown.
We lost in the semi-final to Glantown.
Yeah.
But they're out.
They're out.
They got knocked out to Bray Morgana for the first time in 12 years.
What?
Yeah.
That's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Wow. So Brummagano, where have they come?
They're quite a strong team.
Ooh, okay. So
That's what we've got.
Brummagano didn't feature last year, however, in the final.
No.
So it's really close then.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hard game.
It's going to be a very
absolutely.
good game.
But
Good
hopefully we'll
stuff.
get through.
Where is the final played for the
Newtown.
Newtown? Is there a nice pitch up there?
No.
Not a fan, you are.
No,
But there's some kind of weird arrangement as well, where you play in
Yeah.
one place.
We play like half an hour away from Newtown, and if you win that, then you go to.
So you play a game. If you win that, you get on the bus, and then you go and play another game.
Yeah, you play 2 games in the morning, and then 2 games in the
It's a
afternoon.
busy day then, isn't it? That's a big,
Yeah, it'll be a long
full-on
day.
day. For sure. So, semi-final against Brummagano. Oh, sorry, this
No,
Friday.
no qualifier.
This Friday, is it Callan Cymru or...
I think we're playing the North
Canara.
Walian team.
Okay, this Friday.
Yeah.
You win that, and you get to go through to the semis, which is next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And then our match after semis, if we get into it, will be Llandovery Day, which
Brilliant.
is going to be huge.
That'd be big,
So,
wouldn't it?
So what day is that on then?
Llandovery Day is the 9th of December, Friday nights.
Brilliant. I think the whole school will get out and watch and support
Yeah, should be good.
for that one. We're all looking forward to that match. Great. And then, lads, what have we got coming up?
Yeah, well, on the topic of Bro Morgana, we've got Bro Morgana as well in the league.
Yep.
We were supposed to have them earlier this year, but they pulled out.
First game of the season, I think we
Yeah.
were meant to have them, and they
They
called it off. So we'll have Brummagano next Wednesday.
yeah, that should really be a good, easy win for us, but you never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Absolutely.
Don't know anymore.
No. And then I think we've got Kings Worcester, big block against Kings Worcester. as well, which will be Daily Mail Cup for the
Daily Mail
seniors.
and the first game I'm back for, I think.
Nice.
Should be nice.
Do we know what they're like?
They'll be decent.
They're in the Daily Mail, so
They'll be decent. They'll come with they'll come with a lot, and then that kind of good block fixture for all of our year groups through. So it's nice to play against some big schools as well. Okay, and that kind of sums up week 5 of the quad. And as I said earlier, you can listen to this episode on Spotify now, as well as tuning in onto the YouTube channel at school. So make sure you share it far and wide, get lots of people to listen, and let us know what you think.